What if I told you that something as simple as unlocking your phone at the wrong moment, something that takes literally 3 seconds, could give a U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer complete access to your WhatsApp messages, your private photos, your contact list, your emails, and even your deleted files? And what if I told you that this is happening right now, every single day, at airports and ports of entry across the United States? If you travel internationally, if you have a visa, if you have a green card, or even if you are a naturalized U.S. citizen, this video could be one of the most important things you watch this year. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you are going to know exactly what your rights are, what CBP is legally permitted to do, what mistakes travelers are making that they don't even realize are mistakes, and most importantly, what steps you can take right now to protect yourself without doing anything illegal or suspicious. This is Immigration News Today, and we are here to give you the facts, clear, calm, and straight from the source. Let's start with some context, because understanding the legal foundation here is everything. When you arrive at a U.S. port of entry, whether that's JFK in New York, LAX in Los Angeles, O'Hare in Chicago, or any other international airport, you are in a legally unique space. Courts have long recognized what is called the border search exception to the Fourth Amendment. In ordinary circumstances, law enforcement in the United States needs a warrant to search your belongings, your home, your devices. But at the border, the legal standard is different. CBP officers, under long-standing authority granted by Title 19 of the United States Code, have the right to conduct searches of travelers and their belongings, including electronic devices, without a warrant and without suspicion. Now, I know that sounds alarming, and I want to be clear. I am not here to make you afraid. I'm here to make you informed, because understanding the legal landscape is the first step to navigating it intelligently. The Department of Homeland Security and CBP have published official policies on electronic device searches. The most recent comprehensive directive, CBP Directive 3340-049A, outlines 2 categories of searches. The first is what they call a basic search, which involves manually scrolling through a device, looking at what's on screen without connecting it to any external equipment. The second is an advanced search, which involves connecting the device to specialized forensic software that can extract data, recover deleted files, and generate complete copies of a device's contents. Here is what is critically important for you to understand. CBP does not need a warrant for a basic search of your phone at the border. For an advanced search, the policy states that reasonable suspicion of a violation or a national security concern is required. And this is where things get complicated. Reasonable suspicion is a legal standard that can be interpreted broadly by an officer in the field, and oversight of that determination is limited in the moment. Now, you might be wondering, how often does this actually happen? According to DHS's own data, CBP conducted over 47,000 electronic device searches in fiscal year 2023. That number has grown year over year. And while 47,000 might sound small relative to the hundreds of millions of travelers who cross U.S. borders annually, what matters is who is being searched. Civil liberties organizations, including the American Civil Liberties Union and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, have documented cases where travelers, including U.S. citizens and green card holders, have had their devices searched based on factors like country of origin, religion, or social media activity flagged during a pre-travel screening. Reporting from outlets including the New York Times and the Washington Post has highlighted cases where journalists, researchers, and ordinary travelers discovered that their devices had been forensically imaged at the border without their knowledge. So let's talk about the 3-second mistake. And it is such a simple thing, which is exactly why so many people make it. When a CBP officer asks to see your phone, the natural, reflexive response for most people is to hand it over while it's unlocked. Maybe you were just texting someone. Maybe you have Face ID enabled and the phone opened when you looked at it. Maybe the officer asked you to unlock it and you felt like you had no choice but to comply immediately. That moment, those 3 seconds, represent the difference between an officer seeing a locked device that requires a legal process to access and an officer holding an open door into every corner of your digital life. A locked device presents a meaningful practical barrier. An unlocked device under current border search policy can be manually reviewed without any additional legal threshold being met. Now, I want to be very clear about something, because this is where a lot of people get confused and sometimes get themselves into trouble. Refusing to provide the passcode to your phone is legally different depending on your immigration status. If you are a U.S. citizen, you cannot be denied entry to your own country. A CBP officer may detain your device, may escalate the situation, may cause delays, but they cannot legally bar you from entering the United States if you decline to provide your password. The Fifth Amendment protection against self-incrimination has been argued in this context, though courts have not universally settled the matter, and the legal landscape continues to evolve. If you are a lawful permanent resident, a green card holder, the situation is more complex. You have a right to return to the United States as your home country, but CBP can and does use device searches in secondary inspection. Refusing to provide a passcode can raise the stakes of that interaction significantly. And if you are a visa holder, a non-immigrant visitor, or someone on a temporary status, you should understand that CBP officers have wide discretion at the port of entry, and your entry into the United States is not guaranteed. Refusing device access as a visa holder can result in being deemed inadmissible, which can have serious long-term immigration consequences. This is why understanding the nuance matters so much. The mistake is not just unlocking the phone. The mistake is not understanding your situation before you get to that officer's booth. Let me walk you through what thoughtful, informed travelers are doing and what immigration professionals and civil liberties advocates are recommending, so you can make the decision that is right for your specific circumstances. First, and most practically, consider what is on your device before you board an international flight. This is not about hiding anything. It is about privacy hygiene that any informed traveler, business executive, journalist, medical professional, or regular person should practice. Before you travel internationally, think about whether your phone contains sensitive professional communications, confidential client information, private medical records, or personal conversations that you would not want a stranger to read. If it does, you have options. Many travelers now use a dedicated travel device, a clean phone or laptop that contains only what they need for the trip and nothing sensitive. This is a practice that cybersecurity professionals, investigative journalists, and corporate security teams have recommended for years, and it is now increasingly common among frequent international travelers. Second, understand what cloud storage does and doesn't do for you at the border. If your sensitive photos, messages, or documents are stored only in the cloud, not locally on your device, a manual search of your phone may not reveal them. However, if you are logged into cloud accounts on your device, a forensic extraction can potentially access those accounts. This is why some travelers log out of cloud accounts and communication apps like WhatsApp, Signal, or email before crossing the border. They are not deleting anything. They are not destroying evidence. They are simply ensuring that their private communications are not sitting in an open window. Again, what is appropriate for your situation depends on your status, your purpose of travel, and your individual risk profile. And this is exactly the kind of thing worth discussing with a qualified immigration attorney if you travel frequently. Third, know what secondary inspection means and how to handle it with composure. If a CBP officer directs you to secondary inspection, it does not automatically mean you are in trouble or that you have done anything wrong. Secondary inspection is a more detailed review process. It happens for many reasons, including random selection, incomplete documentation, prior visa issues, or travel history that triggers a system flag. During secondary inspection, officers may ask you detailed questions about your travel, your work, your family connections, and your finances. They may ask to see your phone. Staying calm, Being factual and consistent in your answers and not volunteering information beyond what is asked is sound guidance from virtually every immigration attorney I have spoken with. You are not required to answer questions that go beyond establishing your identity and admissibility. But understanding the line between asserting your rights and creating unnecessary conflict is important, and that understanding is best built before you arrive at the airport, not in the moment. Fourth, document everything. If your device is searched or taken by CBP, you have the right to ask for and receive documentation of that search. CBP policy requires officers to provide written notice when a device is retained. If your phone is taken and not returned before you are released, ask for that receipt. Note the officer's name and badge number if possible. Note the time and location. This documentation is important if you later want to file a complaint, consult an attorney, or understand what happened to your data. The DHS Office of Inspector General and CBP's own Traveler Redress Program, known as the DHS Traveler Redress Inquiry Program, or TRIP, accept complaints from travelers who believe their rights were violated at a port of entry. Fifth, and this applies particularly to visa holders and green card holders who travel frequently, be aware of how your social media presence and digital footprint factor into pre-entry screening. Since 2019, the State Department has required most visa applicants to disclose their social media usernames as part of the visa application process. DHS and CBP have systems that monitor and analyze publicly available social media content. If there is content on your public profiles, even old posts, even things you were tagged in by others, that could be misinterpreted, it is worth being aware of it before you travel. You are not required to delete anything, but knowing your own digital footprint means you won't be surprised if an officer references something from your online history. Now let me address a question I know many of you have, especially those of you who are green card holders or naturalized citizens. Does this affect me too? The answer is yes, though the legal protections differ by status. Naturalized citizens and natural-born citizens have the strongest legal protections, including the right to re-enter the country regardless of whether they cooperate with a device search. But that does not mean the experience is without consequence. Devices can still be retained, searches can still occur, and the emotional and professional impact of having your private communications accessed is real regardless of your legal status. For green card holders, the calculus is different. If you have a conditional green card or if there are any open issues with your immigration status, prior overstays, prior violations, pending applications, a device search could surface information that complicates your re-entry. If you are in any of these situations, I strongly encourage you to consult with an immigration attorney before your next international trip. Not because you should be afraid, but because being prepared is always better than being caught off guard. Let me also address one more scenario that I want to bring to your attention, because it has been appearing in reporting from Reuters, the Associated Press, and other credible outlets over the past year. There have been documented cases where CBP officers have asked travelers to log into specific apps, WhatsApp, Gmail, social media platforms, during a border inspection. Current CBP policy does not explicitly prohibit officers from requesting this, and while the legality of compelling this access is contested in courts, in practice, many travelers comply because they feel they have no choice. Here is what you need to know. If you are a citizen or lawful permanent resident and an officer asks you to log into an app, you can ask whether you are required to do so. You can ask to speak with a supervisor. You can note the request and consult an attorney afterward. If you are a visa holder, the practical risk of refusal is higher, but you still have the option to ask clarifying questions and to document what is being requested. The broader takeaway here is this: the border is a place where your legal rights and practical realities intersect in complicated ways, and the gap between them is real. Being informed does not mean being confrontational. It means arriving prepared, knowing your rights, having your documents in order, and understanding what to do if a situation escalates. Preparation is not guilt. Preparation is wisdom. As of February 28, 2026, the legal framework around electronic device searches at U.S. ports of entry remains governed by CBP Directive 3340-049A and the broader border search exception doctrine. Legislation has been introduced in Congress, most recently in the form of the Protecting Data at the Border Act, that would require a warrant for electronic device searches of U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. As of this recording, that legislation has not been signed into law, but it reflects growing bipartisan recognition that the current framework needs updating. We will continue to track this legislation and bring you updates here on Immigration News Today as developments occur. Before I close, I want to take a moment to address those of you who may be feeling anxious after watching this. I hear you. The idea that your private messages could be read by a stranger at an airport is unsettling. But knowledge is power, and the vast majority of travelers cross the border every day without any of this happening. The steps I outlined, travel devices, cloud logout, knowing your rights, documenting encounters, are practical, legal, and widely recommended. They are not extreme measures. They are the kind of thing informed travelers do. And you are now an informed traveler. Please remember, everything shared in this video is for general informational purposes only. It is not legal advice, and it is not a substitute for consulting a qualified immigration attorney about your specific situation. Immigration policy changes frequently. What is accurate today may be revised tomorrow. Always verify information with official sources: USCIS at uscis.gov, CBP at cbp.gov, and DHS at dhs.gov, and consult a licensed immigration professional for guidance tailored to your personal circumstances. A brief on-screen notice. Policy changes can occur, and the information in this video reflects available guidance as of February 28, 2026. If this video helped you or someone you know, please take a moment to like it and share it, especially with friends and family members who travel internationally and may not be aware of these policies. Sharing this kind of information is one of the most practical ways to protect your community. Subscribe to Immigration News Today if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. We cover the immigration landscape every week with the same commitment to accuracy, clarity, and respect for you as a viewer. Check the video description below for links to the official CBP electronic device search policy, the DHS TRIP redress program, and other resources mentioned today. Thank you for being here. You asked the right questions by watching this video. Stay informed, stay prepared, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you in the next one.